Call the meeting to order.
Coffee?
Here?
Kelly?
Here.
McKinley? Testori? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing on the agenda, we have one public comment. Shelley Fredericks, would you like to come up, please? Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to talk about the garbage mandate and recycling a little bit. I've come up here before, so you know probably my feelings on the recycling. My neighbor, my backyard neighbor, she wanted to know what that was all about. She saw me on the video. She watches the videos every week. And she was concerned because she doesn't have garbage service. She's an older woman. She uses a bag of garbage every 2 weeks. She shares service with her daughter.
Okay.
So if you mandate and add something to her bill, you know, she's living on Social Security. She has a tight budget. You know, she doesn't want it. She doesn't need it. I don't think those people shouldn't be on their backs because
you know, Shelley, I think that's something we have to take a look at during this whole process. And they have to make us aware of that. And I don't know if I would assume that we probably look at it pretty strongly. And if that was the case, then probably not, they wouldn't be charged. But, you know.
Well, that's why I came up here, because I don't know if you're actually listening to people, or if people are voicing their opinions or not.
Well, we're listening.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely. We're just in the beginning stages of it. We're just kind of trying to get a feel for, you know, how people feel. That's kind of why this survey was put out and everything, just to kind of get an idea of the feeling people have.
And Sue's going to explain that later in our new business, so she can kind of get everybody filled in what's going on, estimate of costs, and everything that's included. All right, thank you.
Especially in a small town.
Okay, section 1, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Call it.
Coffee?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
McKinley? Motion carried.
Section 2 is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business to discuss? I have one thing, and I've kind of been driving around and I see a few houses that are abandoned, and I'm not sure these are livable, and I just kind of wondered if we followed up on some of these. There was a couple on, I believe it was Dodge Street. One looks like it's in fair shape, but I don't believe anybody's living there.
Does the police department have those addresses?
I just got them this morning. I have not. So.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to get them to the chief or I would be happy to follow up on it. And he may already be looking at them.
That's why, yeah. There's one I had a little concern about. You know, it's having some major roof issues. So I'd hate for somebody, and it's been like that for a while, I think, from the looks of it. I'd hate for kids to get in there and fall through the floor or something like that. Something to do.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. Does anybody? Section 3 is new business. It's going to be a discussion of the draft RFP for residential refuse, recycling, and yard waste collection. Sue, would you like to lead that?
Okay. This came up as a potential to discuss and look at options. So I put together this draft RFP. It's for discussion at this point. I've done this before in other communities, so I was familiar with what was generally in an RFP. And then we tossed around options and what things to look at. So all of this is up for discussion in terms of you want to change any provisions. If you don't even want to issue it, you know, this is for discussion at this point. So if people don't know, an RFP is a request for proposals. It's kind of like going out for a quote. And that's what you're doing is you're asking waste management, garbage haulers to review this and send in their quotes of how much they would charge us for these services. So I'll walk you through it a little bit. On the first page, under 1 and 2, under 1, this would be an initial 3-year contract with an option to extend it for 2 years for a total of 5. Typically, that's what you're used to seeing is 3 years, and if you're happy with the service, you may want to renew just for the ease of the service, making sure that, they're within, their prices don't go sky high in those last 2 years. Then on the next page, I put in together 2 options because Farmer City does not currently recycle. So the first option includes everything. Garbage, refuse, recyclables, yard waste, everything else every week. Option 2 would be your refuse, your garbage, your yard waste, but recycling every 2 weeks. So they'd only pick it up like every other. And that could be decided later, like let's say the even weeks or, every other, however we want to decide. So those are the 2 options. You can come up with any other options if you're interested. Whether it's, taking yard waste out or adding something in, but these were just a couple suggestions.
But just to be clear
Yes.
to everyone in town, that we are not mandating recycling. We are just
No.
giving the option with this
Yes.
RFP to have the option. If you'd like to recycle, that you can recycle.
Yes.
By all means, like if you absolutely, have no interest in recycling, no one is being forced to recycle. Because I think that's kind of the misconception in town is that they think that they're going to be forced to recycle and separate this stuff out, but when they don't really want to. So I just want to make that clear. That
No, and I was going to touch on that later because what it calls for is each residence to get a refuse and a recycling tote or bin. But you don't have to use it, the recycling. You could just park it somewhere and, not use it. Or you could get a smaller one. The typical in this, now we can change that, but in the request, it's saying 96 gallon each, which are the big ones. Now you could do a 96 gallon garbage and a 32 gallon recycling, because you don't recycle much.
Right.
And get that, and then just park it in the garage if you don't
We
want
were
to
going to
recycle.
potentially put in there to that they could pay a little extra to get a bigger one if someone wanted that option.
Yes.
If they could do a little different. Okay.
So they would not be using their own trash cans, correct?
Correct.
So no more lost trash cans or ripped off handles. Obviously, if
If something broke,
break or
they would
lost, then
replace
they're
it.
replaced. Same deal on the recycling.
Yes.
I mean, I know that's an added expense for me every month, and my bill runs about $26.
Which I'm going to touch on the general
Sure.
costs too. But yes, they would provide them, like if your lid broke off or cracked or a wheel popped off, they would replace it.
The yard waste, they would pick it up every week in option 1.
Yes.
And the yard waste have to be put into special bags.
Either just the craft bags or, you could, the brown paper bags or like what you have now, your garbage can, like a aluminum
Like a
can.
plastic,
Mhm.
everything. The craft bags, we have to buy those.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be your choice if, you don't have
Or you
to.
can buy whatever anyway.
Or just use your own garbage can.
Well, and if they set it up to where you picked up trash on Monday and they picked up your leaves on Tuesday, you probably use the same can.
I don't know about that because typically what they're doing is they have the totes and those are made for the automated trucks.
Okay.
And I don't know that they would have automated trucks with the yard waste, but we could find out.
I don't know if we want to touch on this right now, but in the fall of the year, what would be your distilled yard waste and the leaves, which become an issue as far as burning goes, burning during the fall months of the year. The burning right now is making it towards the fall. It's 12 months out of the year. Because Scott and I have talked in our neighborhood, there's somebody that's burning down there. And I haven't quite got to determine who it is, but it's, he said it's Saturday night, it's Saturday and Sunday nights, after 7 o'clock, and somebody is lighting something off. And I've walked around trying to find it. I haven't found it yet, but maybe I'll walk around another direction and see if I can't find it, but, yeah. This is something, this is one, I'm in favor of this, because, one reason that, the burning issue, I'm sick of that. I'm getting tired of it and everything. You can't open your windows and you know, there's smell coming through there all the time, so.
And this will help people with allergies. I mean, if we stop the leaf burning altogether and go to where you can go pick them up, I mean, that's just one thing we can check off the list.
And I was gonna touch on it too, is that this uses up time for our crews. We only have 3 guys.
Right.
And there's a lot of concern about getting the streets done and other work. And it takes them sometimes up to 15, 20 hours a month just to do leaves and brush.
Well, that's a good thing, the brush and everything, just the brush is pretty heavy at times. I know I put out some that's been pretty heavy. Would they still pick it up like that, I mean, with the shredder?
Usually what they do is they'll require like that it's cut within a certain length, you know, and bundled, and they'll pick it up that way. But sometimes they'll allow like the sticks and stuff, but not the big pieces of wood. Those would have to be cut down to a certain length.
Okay, with option B, that we would also do that bigger stuff, because we have
We
the
can throw something like that in there.
chopper and everything, but where we do it as a city, you know, if it got to be too much. Because sometimes people can have, take advantage of it, and, you know, sometimes 6 inches around. Reasonable, but you can get into a lot of limb
But it
trimming.
also might be, I mean, we can find out where that's allowed in your yard waste cans or craft bags, I don't know.
Well, I think about myself, because I had some limbs that were trimmed pretty heavy and everything, and so it had a big pile in my yard and everything, and it was, I don't know if they want to pick it up. I'm sure the city guys don't want to pick it up either. Services offered, so I'm taking advantage of it.
But we can add some kind of language in
So
there.
I think something like that needs to be put in there in case it does get to be,
Okay.
I did like the survey that you put out. You know, people got to, wasn't just something that you go down and check the boxes, they got to put their opinion in.
Yeah, and I was gonna go over that after I walked through the RFPs, so that everybody knows the results to date. On the next page, at the bottom, number 3, it says refuse collection, that we already touched on it, but this just tells you that they will supply the totes for the refuse and recycling and the different sizes that are available. On the next page at the top, it continues, you know, you get a 96 gallon, but you could downsize if you're not into recycling. And again, the recycling would only be at residences. That's why we kind of call it mandated refuse and recycling, because you get both. Every house would have both, but you can't like do recycling without refuse, if that makes sense. And then it just, let's see, I kind of jumped, but just to walk through the types of recycling, which is your typical, but, and then yard waste, again, we can, like I said, Alderman McKinley will clarify that, you know, whether they'll take the large pieces of wood. Christmas tree recycling, I know that we already do that, but this would, you know, they would do it for us. Municipal facilities, those are listed. Those would be provided for free. And the special events they would provide for Heritage Days.
Heritage Days already gets theirs provided for free. I did find that out.
Okay.
Area just
Well, it's just
so, but yeah, no, it is
Yeah.
nice to have that in there as a.
Okay, well, good.
Yes.
For 20 garbage and 15 recycles, but that was just an estimate based on previous experience, so we can change those numbers
The
as
recycles
necessary.
are nice.
On the next page on the vehicles, one of the things that I saw some comments made, and I've also heard since I've been here, is some complaints about things being left behind. Garbage littering the streets because it's falling off the trucks. They are responsible for, they are responsible for littering. So if their garbage blows off the vehicle, they're responsible to go pick that up and not leave it. They have to, if they see it right away or if they have to come back. They're also, I'm not sure, it might be later, but they're also responsible that, like the issue that we have with Maple Street, that would not occur. Because there's actually a provision in here that says having construction on any of the streets is not an excuse not to pick up the garbage. So they would be required to pick it up, and if we had an issue, we'd make them go back out that same day. At the top of, I should have probably numbered these pages, but franchise fee, that would be a fee that the contractor would pay back to the city. That helps us in terms of the utility billing portion, our costs for, collecting the money for them. And then the senior discount, this was referenced in the survey. Typically, you see a 10% discount for anybody over 65 off of the monthly bill. So I think that's or disabled, not just senior, but disabled discount as well.
Steve, I have a question about
Yes.
that, because I know there's a few seniors that they don't have to haul their cans out to the road, they actually have them picked up at the edge of the house. Is that
Yes.
something that's?
Yes, I have seen that where they'll have a list of a few homes where they are willing to go like up the driveway to the garage. In a couple of pages at the end of 9, right before 10, again, complaint response. I think sometimes there's residents who feel very frustrated because they may have an issue currently and they don't have anybody that can help them with their complaints. This requires them to address complaints of our residents and answer the complaints, and if they don't, then we have trigger to, take that fight for them. To make sure that they're responding to complaints and addressing them.
I asked about the price change. If they want to come in and have up the rates and everything, or would this be an annual thing that they would do?
Yeah, usually, and I'll go over that. I gave you an example of the city of Lincoln just recently. They will lay out your prices for the next 3 to 5 years. So if we're asking for 3 years up to 5, they'll list out all 5 years. So you know what's going to be charged over the next 5 years. Now,
So
yes,
they're not going to come back and ask for a price increase after the second year?
No.
They cannot, okay.
they have to wait until the end of the contract. Now, they may, I believe there's a provision in here that they're allowed to back out. No, let me see. No, it's termination of the contract by us. But once we approve the 3-year contract, they're locked in.
And what if they got sloppy in their pickup and everything, and it got to be poor service and everything? We can opt to.
That's where the
Yes, we can opt to terminate, or we can, make them comply in threatening of, termination. Again,
Can we
sorry,
sue
go
them,
ahead.
Joe?
Pardon me?
Can we sue them?
Well, yes. They breached their contract, yes.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of language in here about notice of default, indemnification, they have to have a performance bond, they have to have insurance. So there's a number of things that protect us and the residents.
Credibility, that's all.
Yes.
And another good key point I think we need to point out is the one thing that you and I did talk about to put in here was possibility for curbside citywide cleanup.
Yes,
Twice a year. So instead of having to take it to the light plant anymore, you would just put it at your curb.
yes.
Like washers, dryers, whatever.
Yes.
And twice a year, we would try to have that to where it would just be at your residence.
Yeah, they usually call it like
So
a fall cleanup day, a spring cleanup day, and all you have to do is put out your curb, your couch, a stove. No electronics, but any big furniture, whatever you want, just put it out on the curb, and they go through the entire town in one day. And you don't have to take it to a dumpster, you don't have to get there and find out the dumpster's full, you just roll it out under your curb.
Right.
Then when that happens, it becomes property that anybody can come along and take. Because some
You're
people
right.
like to scrap.
You're right.
Because I had that brought up to me today.
Yes, you'll
about
see
this.
that, you'll see people driving around the night before, that morning, going around seeing what they can find. The other thing is, though, you can also have bulk waste pickup at your leisure, and what I mean by that is, let's say you got a stove that, 6 months from the next cleanup day, you can call the contractor and say, hey, how much would it cost me for you to come get my couch? And they'll say it'll be $20, and if that's worth it to you, then they'll come do it, and they'll just bill you separately. On the appendices, it just shows what we're looking for them to submit, then it looks like a chart like this. It'll list out the rates across each year, the first 3 years, and then the gray is the last 2 as an option. The next one is, let's say you live right outside of town. We are asking, if you're gonna send this out, to have the companies submit what it would cost for them to participate.
Greenleaf. Greenleaf Hills.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm still learning.
It's subdivision south of town.
Oh, okay, yes. It may, let's say they charge in town $16, maybe they charge outside town $18. I don't know, I'm just, but that's what we're asking to see, okay, you're right outside the limits, what would it cost them to participate? Then again, same optional services offered in terms of your non-residential, your businesses, your, mostly businesses. So, whether you want a dumpster, do you want, 5 96-gallon totes, or you just want the typical what everybody else gets, but you're a non-resident, can they participate and how much would it cost?
One of the questions that was brought up was apartment complexes. Now, I know some of them already have dumpsters, and that's included in their fee, their rental agreement, but then there's also duplexes, triplexes in town here where the residents pay for them. So what happens if, say, a triplex is full, and then the resident decides to leave and that facility or that one apartment is empty for any given time, then who's responsible for that?
Well, we would treat it similar to the water and sewer, is the property owner's responsibility. So we would be billing the property owner.
But if there's no trash pickup there, I mean, that was the other concern by a couple property owners here.
Well, typically you still
When I-
pay for it whether
when
you
I-
have it picked up or not.
Sure.
But it wouldn't, we wouldn't, it's up to the landlord. I can't tell the landlord what to do, but ultimately it's the landlord and the property owner's responsibility. I suppose typically he or she could try and pass it on, that loss
No,
of
we
the
did
third,
rental.
but.
We just figured it into our rent. It was just easier. We didn't have to worry about them not having trash and it sitting on one side.
Well, I'd say you would do it as a property owner, everything with the property,
I handed out a chart, like I said, the city of Lincoln just went through this. They received 3 quotes, one from Advanced Waste Management and Area Disposal. Now, the difference with this was that they did not have yard waste included in that. So we can only kind of estimate what that might be per month. But what they were looking at is the initial basic option would be $16 to $21 a month. $16 a month, 21 was the highest, Waste Management, the other 2 were around $16.50, $16.25. And over 5 years, that would only go up to $17.50 or $18 a month. And then of course they had an additional cart rental rate. That's like if you wanted 2 garbage cans or $2.50 to $3 each per month if you had a lot of garbage or recycling. So that gives you a little bit of idea, which I thought was striking. This is what I expected just because of my experience. But it is striking in terms of the results of the survey, because the survey shows that, and I'll walk through it in a moment, but 76% of the people that responded are paying more than $21 a month. So for almost 38% are 38% are over $25 a month. So to get all the same services plus some for less money, I thought would be, intriguing. Now, obviously, the city of Lincoln is a larger town. They have more households. Maybe there's some kind of cost differential for them where it might be a little less. But typically, I think, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we first started talking about that, I think I threw out the number 18 to 20. So this isn't out of that range.
And when I originally, before you came into play, had only talked to one company and, I didn't know very much about it. So, he was coming in with lower numbers because I wasn't including the things that, like the curbside cleanup days and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, I think your numbers were definitely accurate.
I think you're thinking about the curbside cleanup days when we've had these done to light plan. Maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I think it brings in people from out of town to dump stuff on us. And I'm almost sure that it does. And so that would stop that, because those things get, many people in this town do not have that much crap to put in those dumpsters, 3, 4 dumpsters and load them up. And that's the other thing I like about this whole thing, because it just weeds them out,
Well, and this, if they do live outside of town, this gives them the ability to use that service also if they so choose. That way they're not left out of the program.
And it would probably be less money, only because of the economy of scale. That if they're doing the whole town and they're just gonna pick up 20 extra houses, they'd probably offer them a pretty good rate.
And that is why I just also want to say, because I know some people are in town are confused as to how if you add more services, could it possibly be less money? It just doesn't make sense, but the reality is that these garbage companies, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that because we are, as a town, are taking the responsibility of collecting all this money, and we essentially pay them. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to go after anybody if they don't get the money and all of that. So that's why it comes in lower. That's kind of how it was explained to me by area, was just that they eliminate all the risk. So they give us a lower rate because essentially, we take the risk of having to deal with the people with any business that you have. Well, you have to deal with like rental. I do it all the time. I have to call people and,
and they have an automatic overhead costs.
Right.
So for example, right now, area is serving some of your residents.
Right.
Well, they have that automatic cost of labor, of trucks, of fuel to come out here. So if they go from, let's say, 20 households to 1,100 households, that eases their overall overhead burden. To the survey, we had good results. Now we're still getting some coming in. I had 2 more come in since I printed this out. I did include the link on the utility bill, because we can continue to take comments. But the overall, I was very pleased that we had almost 190 within 3-4 days. Generally, household recycling, almost 70% do not recycle currently. 25% do, but they take it somewhere else, which means they have to. I know at least one staff member said I have to pile it in my car and take it, if I go to Bloomington Normal or something. If we offered the curbside recycling, almost 60% said yes, they would participate, which I thought was a good number. I did calculate that if not, why not? And the basic comments, first of all, was if you would participate, if not, why not? A lot of it was, I think, concern over costs, because I think there's some misunderstanding about it would be on top of what they're already paying for garbage, or some of it was concern about having to sort, the time that it would take. What's nice is I have it where I live, and you just dump all of it in one bin. You don't have to sort it. You just, your milk bottles, your cardboard boxes just go all in one big tote.
You don't have to take the labels off or anything like that.
No. Some is, again, a lot of the comments were, don't tell me what to do, which I understand. But a lot of it was, I think, mostly concerned about the cost, and I'm hoping that we can get the word out tonight. And if you do it and we get the information back, find out that it's actually not as expensive as you think.
I'd like to see you do this again after this information gets out.
Okay.
And people can read it and go through it and then see if their opinions have changed a little bit.
Okay.
And just to see what kind of response compared to what we already had.
Well, it's still out there. I'm sorry.
Was the survey mailed?
It's online.
Oh,
She said the link is gonna be on your city bills to do the survey.
And there is a line that'll say, if you want a paper copy, you can come to City Hall to fill it out. All you really need is internet, but I know not everyone has internet. You could access it at the library, but if you want paper, we're gonna offer it, and we set that on the billing.
Okay.
Again, monthly cost, again, I said 76, almost 80% are paying more than $21 a month. And $21 a month is something you might be looking at in 3 to 4 years if you do this contract. The senior citizen, I apologize, I did not write that question correctly because I didn't give anybody the option of saying I'm not a senior citizen. So unfortunately, it's a little skewed. You know, I did get some comments, thankfully, but most of them were, I'm not a senior. But it does appear, at least with the comments, that they're not receiving a senior discount. But I can't change it now because it would skew the overall results, but I'm just putting it out there that I apologize and I know that it's not the way it should have been set up. The dump day for bulk waste, again, over 54% do participate. If they don't, the questions are, the biggest thing, they fill up too fast. They get there and they can't leave it. The other is there was a large amount that just said they don't have a need for it. You know, they don't have bulk waste. Some said they were unaware of it. They didn't know that it existed.
I have to agree with that. I think the last few we've had, last couple we've had, it just hasn't been out there strong enough to let everybody know that it's there.
And then the last question was, what would be your opinion if we mandated the service? If the cost was the same or lower, because that's my expectation. 56% said yes, they would favor it. 44% said no, of those that responded to date. Again, most of the comments were, love it, that'd be great, especially if it's a lower price. And the opposite was, I don't want you to tell me what kind of garbage service to use. So ultimately, I think it was a positive thing to kind of get the feedback. I think it's also good to get the word out of what we're doing. We'll continue it at least for another week or two. At least another week. If you do the RFP, we may let it run until we get the post back. So that's kind of everything. I know it's a lot of information. I don't know if you have any questions. Any more questions, I should say.
I think what Scott said as far as running another survey, that'd be good effort tonight, because there's people who watch this.
Well, would it be satisfactory to just
Just
let
to
it run?
continue
Because my concern is if you
survey.
run another one, it's because if you change it, then it
It's
hurts
confusing.
the significance of the study.
So can the same person that got on there once do it again?
No.
Okay, so.
So that's what you're looking at is...
That's my thinking is maybe said, well, I don't want to do it because it's recycling, it's mandatory, it might cost me more. But now that they realize it could be a lot cheaper with extra benefits, they may have changed their mind and now they can't. You're still stuck with the same answers.
Yeah, I can see about maybe changing it, maybe not asking the exact same questions, maybe tailoring it to, did you see the city council meeting, do you understand all the details, and then see what their opinion is. I could try to do that.
Sure.
And leave the other one out there.
Any other discussion?
I'm just looking for direction. Do you want to wait until the 5th to decide whether to send it out? Do you want to send it out? Do you not want to send it out?
I would like to get some pricing on
I
it.
mean, I'd like to send it out just so we can see and get an idea of what we're looking at as far as the proposals and who's gonna.
If you want a consensus, I think we probably get a consensus.
Yeah, I mean, we need to.
Move forward on it.
Yeah. Get the ball rolling.
Okay, I can send it out and get close.
Okay.
I think that would give people a little better feel for where it sits, you know.
Right.
Obviously, from this thing, they know it's going to cost them somewhere between $13 and $21.
But the
It's
$21
probably
is really like at the
That's the
5th
high.
year, you
That's
know, I
the
mean, like,
high.
that's like the last year of it, like at the beginning.
If I was a betting woman, I would say with yard waste, they might come in around $17, $18 at the low end, up to 21 to 23 in 5 years. That's my
And every
guess.
business has to raise their prices over a period of time.
Sure.
You have to expect that's going to happen.
But at least you'd know ahead of time, you'd see it in black and
You're
white,
aware
what to
of what's going to
expect.
happen.
Right.
You're aware of where they're going to be at, sure.
Anything else?
That is.
Not on that one.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session, personnel to discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, and/or performances of specific employees pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 120/2C1. If you would, please step outside while we have our executive session. Since need a vote. I'm sorry.
I second it.
Kelly,
Yes.
McKinley,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
motion carried.
Open session. Section 4 is other items. The city manager's report.
I just want to briefly review, I believe you received your first quarter report. If they're not there, they might be in your box. Things are pretty much on track right now. We'd be right at about 25%. Most of the funds are less than that. The good news is pool admissions and concessions is ahead of schedule financially. However, it's ahead of schedule in spending. So we'll see how that tracks out because like I told you, we don't pull it out of the general fund, but I am going to track it separately just to keep an eye on things. The hotel motel tax is also ahead of schedule, 45% versus what you would see 25%. I don't know if that'll be a lasting trend, but we'll see. But again, typically you have a few line items that are way over. I'm investigating, to see if maybe things need to be coded differently. I did want to point out a couple different things though. You will see the purchase of the, part of the purchase, well no, both are there. The police cars. In the police department under the DUI account and vehicles account. Obviously that blows the line item out of the water. We knew that, we did that strategically because you're going to save money doing it that way because otherwise you're going to be paying, let's say, 2 or 3% interest on car loans versus 0.10 collecting in your savings account. So we just paid them off because you have the money. It's just that we'll be doing an appropriations and a budget amendment after November 1st, and then that will all shake out. Everything else, like I said, I think generally is in good shape. The pool is slightly over budget. It's not bad. It's at 35% versus 25%. So you're taking in the higher amount of revenue. So we'll see again how it looks with that wall repair and how.
Yeah, there were like things that had to be done undercover to the wheelchair.
And she's got an estimate, but I mean he's going to come out after they drain the pool on Labor Day. So.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You said you'd like to see the budget, we're at 25% right now for the first quarter as far as our,
Yes.
the way everything's going. Okay. Can I ask you a question going back to the bill listing and everything? Okay. This deal about the prevailing wage. I know the individual and he is fighting that, and if he fights it and pays less than that $8,000, do we pay less of a penalty? Do we get money back?
Well, we should pay less of a penalty, but I wasn't made aware of that. The letter we received was from the state, and it was based on a higher amount. I don't know, of course, knowing the state, if they would refund us or.
But I know that he's fighting that and saying that's too much money and everything.
Is he just fighting with the state or actually filing a suit or?
Well, I'm not quite sure how he's going about it and everything, but I know he's talked to the department.
I mean, I can reach out to the department from the letter. There's a person that signed the letter, and reach out to the department at the state and ask them, because I believe she's already processed that through the bill list. So.
Okay. Yeah,
Because we received that letter 10 days or more, I think, ago. It's been a couple weeks, I think. Then we had 30 days.
Yeah, you might, because I just know they're fighting, and he's not going to pay the $8,000.
Okay. Yeah, I will ask. In the utilities, again, things are on track. You might have a few line items that are a little higher than normal, but again, overall, the funds are in the range of around 25%. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview. I know that the mayor and I have discussed potentially adding a little bit more general information about the status of the funds. We don't operate on a cash basis, we operate on modified accrual, so it's not going to be okay, what's in the bank type thing. But I have already created the spreadsheets back when I did my budget presentation of your ongoing fund balances and kind of where things are. So I am still working on that. Maybe at the end, it'll be early September for the end of the August bill listing. So at least that gives you like a glance at how, you know, your general fund, your TIF fund, your utilities, how they look, you know. So, and that's all I had was just this overview.
Another question I have, in days gone by, library board members, when they came up, their office, their position came up and everything, we got a thing from the library to approve those. Do we still get that, or do you know anything about that?
You mean board members?
Yes.
I believe you would, but I haven't seen anything.
I've never seen anything, you know, in years.
Excuse me. They're a component unit, and they should, because I know that their budget goes through us. So.
You doing the ad, new library board?
Well, they had and new ones, the term comes up and everything, and
Yes.
the names always came before us, and the mayor presented it to the council, and his.
It should.
And I haven't seen it. I've never seen that.
I've read the resolutions for how long it's been.
Not since any time I've been here in the last 5 years. Not since the first time, and that was 3 years, and after that, you know, I haven't seen anything since. I didn't see anything during that first 3 years.
We just have a staff update on Maple Street. We just.
Sure,
could you
absolutely.
Give a little.
Yes, they actually did quite a bit despite some other issues that they had this week. But they were able to complete the extension to Western and install a new manhole. That was the biggest chunk of that line of the work. They're now going to proceed down Western, then come back around towards Maple. They're hoping to be done again by late fall, hopefully sooner. I think it really just depends on issues, like we've had some water main breaks and whatnot. We did have a brief discussion about the repaving of Maple Street and the need to replace the water line. I would prefer that perhaps we engineer that this year and be ready to pull the trigger in the spring. I think it makes sense if you're going to redo the road, you need to redo the water line. And that could be a TIF district expense. It looks like my predecessor did budget a large amount, and I believe that's what it was for. We'll just have to add the water line component to it. But then there was some wildcat water. What that is, you know, we're one house, and all three of them go down one line to the main instead of their own extensions to the main, and there's been some water pressure issues. That will be addressed once they come around that corner, because there would, you know, otherwise I know it's at the end. I did advise that resident that you're at the end, but it's the way it's being done, because otherwise you've got to dig it up twice. And
So-
it just doesn't make sense.
With this going on in the spring, they would have their own individual line coming
Yes.
off the main,
Well,
and it would remove that.
no,
extension.
we're gonna fix those couple of houses this fall.
Okay.
We're gonna do the rest of the street in the spring.
Okay, so those houses are like,
Those houses will be fixed this fall.
okay. And the whole street is filled in?
I believe it, yeah, that was with the manhole, the one that was over on Western. Yes, that was filled in. That was filled in Monday morning.
Okay, awesome.
Today's Monday, isn't it? This morning.
It is.
Because I went out there, well, I went out there Thursday night and I took a look at it, and they stayed late to barricade it,
Yeah.
and then they were gonna come back, so it actually might have been Friday. And,
I think they did it
yeah.
Friday. It was
Yeah.
over the weekend, it was down the street.
I think that's why I was thinking morning, so Friday morning. Yeah.
Is there any other discussion on the city manager's report? Do you have anything else for us?
Can't think of anything else pressing. We do have some sick raccoons in town that either have distemper or rabies. I know the chief has caught one, and he's working with IDNR, or Fish and Game, and the county So please do not approach them. There was one that was apparently just laying on the sidewalk and the children thought they could pet it like a cat. Please do not do that. And if you see one, call, the police department or the county. We're hoping to catch the rest of them. And we're going to be installing dog waste stations in Weedman Park and South Park. So
Are you coming over
hopefully
across the
we'll be
street?
enforcing, please pick up after your dog.
How many are we getting? Can we put one across the street in that little lot?
What? Oh, here?
Boom, we're over there.
Yeah, we probably could.
Okay.
They're really much more inexpensive than I thought, so.
Actually, I witnessed it happening today, so it was a treat.
And we also ordered backflow preventer for BMX track.
How much?
It was based on an estimate. I don't know what we actually ended up at. It was about 4,000. But that includes the installation, you have to have a plumber.
That is installed.
With there was some other equipment with it too. We got 2 estimates and they were right about the same thing.
Do you have department supervisor reports?
No, I don't think they have anything for this one.
Any non-agenda items or other business? I do have one. The Clark Foundation has asked if they can put a one-page, bring it up here to put in the electric bill information about them, what they do. Told them do not fold them.
Is it gonna be a half by 11 sheet?
It will be on normal sheet of paper. Anything else? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call it?
Coffee?
Yes?
Kelly?
Yes.
Kinley? Motion carries.